Laramie live on KOWB is mobile and local. Listen on the go with Radio Puck.
9:40 here on your Thursday edition of the program, and my pleasure to welcome to the show. He is the head football coach of the University of Wyoming, Craig Bohl. And Coach, thanks so much for the time this morning. Sorry, but my schedule did not permit me to attend Media Day yesterday, and it sounds like a lot of excitement. I guess, first of all, give me your overall thoughts on the latest recruiting class announced yesterday afternoon for your team.
Well, this was our fourth year, and without question, we were able to be in areas that we've been in for several years. That combined with, some of the resources our universities allowed us to do to go different places, starting with our in-state and being out amongst the high school coaches was imperative. And then that combined with, the atmosphere at War Memorial Stadium this fall when we had a lot of these young men on official visits really kind of all the stars aligned right, and I think it capped off with an excellent recruiting class. We were able to address a lot of our needs, and what was also encouraging, being our fourth year, many of these young men, it wasn't like we had to, we've got this gap and we've got that gap. I think we were able to take more of a broad-based approach and said, who are our best players, who's above the line, who really fits our Wyoming profile, and we were able to attract many of our guys that we had evaluated as our number one targets.
Well, it sounds like an impressive array. You talk about your footprint. You stretch from the West Coast all the way through the Rockies and out into the Midwest for this recruiting class, and really kind of shows a wide variety of talent across the country that is able to fit into your profile.
Well, that's the power of ESPN and CBS Sports. Young men, they had an opportunity to watch us play if they were not able to be on campus, and then certainly hosting the Mountain West Conference Championship game really changed how a lot of these prospects viewed us. But what we will not do is get away from our initial footprint. We're really excited about Logan Harris, who we consider local over in Torrington, coming and joining our football squad. He's a big, strong, strapping guy. We feel like he's the best player in the state of Wyoming, and we appreciate him coming. And then we have several other guys who are walk-on players from this immediate area who are going to come in and really add some great depth and value to our program. We're always going to recruit in the Colorado, Denver area, and then we've stretched into Nebraska, and then we've been able to branch out from there. And what you'll find is every year certain areas are going to have a little bit more of appeal than other ones. This year, the state of Illinois really truly turned out to be an excellent recruiting area for us, where Oklahoma in the past had been. And what's going to occur is those probably are going to flip back and forth through the years. And you're right. I mean, we have to go a long ways because of our footprint. You've got everything from the Chicago, Milwaukee area out to California, and so that's basically half the country, so a lot of miles logged.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking with Coach Craig Bohl, kind enough to join me this morning, Laramie Live on KOWB, as we reflect on the 2017 recruiting class announced yesterday afternoon. And Coach, talk a little bit about Sacramento all of a sudden. It seems to be kind of a pipeline for you guys. You pick up 4 guys out of your 5 recruits from California. What's going on out there in Sacramento?
Well, that's always kind of been a metro area that we believe has been under-recruited, and then along with that, not only since our staff, but I think if you look through from a historical perspective, Sacramento's always had some players that have kind of bought into the University of Wyoming. It's a little bit different area than, say, like Los Angeles. Football is important there. And along with that, we have some current players on our team from the Sacramento area who, have done well here. And that combined with, our success this year against a lot of the Mountain West schools, these guys that came in from Sacramento were pretty heavily recruited and had some options to go to schools that were a little bit closer, and they flew over those schools because I think they're seeing something different that we have to offer here at Wyoming.
You talk about your right fit, and you speak so much to that, and you guys, kind of have adjusted through the last few years of exactly what you're looking for. But instead of so much talk about who's this rating, who's that rating, it seems to me that you guys really focus in on fitting the pieces to the puzzle. Coach, can you explain that?
Yeah, that comes from a lot of years of experience and some trial on air. So much of that came back to an indelible impression that Coach Osborne had left on me when I was at Nebraska. We had an opportunity to have what Sports Illustrated rated was the second best football team in college football history, and those classes were comprised of classes that were rated 30th and 31st in the country, and so there were many guys that the pundits, the experts of these guys who were going to other schools. We didn't get the high-profile guy, but we found the right guy, the guy that really wanted to be at our school, and we've been very intentional with these guys that we've talked to. This is what we're looking for, and so much of football is if you look in the NFL draft, so many of those guys were not really heavily recruited, but they're guys who really bought in and they've developed, and that's a message that we've sent to our guys. And so I appreciate you bringing that up, because you'll have some people saying, well, this guy's a two-star guy. Well, who made him a two-star guy? And and that guy's 17 years old, and what is he going to be like when he's 22? And that's where the real rubber meets the road.
Is there anyone that you are really impressed with that you added to this recruiting class? Because I know that you can't talk specifics during the season, and last fall you alluded to gaining momentum in recruiting, but do you feel like there were some guys that, just at the end, because of the way 2016 went, that you really closed strong on, or anybody that really, I guess, kind of crosses your memory and goes, hey, this was a guy that maybe we couldn't have gotten 4 years ago?
Yeah, there was a handful of guys. Now, I want to preface that with, it's been my experience, just because this guy's somebody else all wanted, does that mean he's going to come in and beat out some guy that, Andrew Winger wasn't recruited by a lot of people, and Andrew Winger's turned out to be a great player along with Josh Allen. But, I think a guy like Victor Jones was a defensive end that we signed out of Sacramento. He's a guy that had a lot of Pac-12 traffic. He came in with a teammate, and, he saw what was going on. Now, that guy, or Tyler Vanderwald, is another guy that probably wouldn't have gotten before, but because of the success, or Keon Blankenbanker or C.J. Colden, these are guys who, we had evaluated as the top guys, and I think because of our success, Keon had the University of Cincinnati really recruiting him hard, and you recruit a young man from an urban area like Chicago, and he's choosing to come to the University of Wyoming as opposed to the University of Cincinnati. That's a big, big change. And so I think we're making steps there. But let's not forget about the guy like Logan Harris, or Rudy Stouffer from Kearney, or, a couple of guys that we have in Denver. That's really the backbone of our football program.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we're talking with Coach Bohl about the latest Cowboy football recruiting class. You did actually sign a couple special teamers. You got the long snapper transfer and the punter, a couple areas that you feel are key to the football program, I know.
Well, they are, and there's always give and take with that, because specialists, the amount that they do, they won't play many plays in the game, but those plays are really critical plays, and so you really want to try to spread those out. What you don't want to do is heavily invest and have 3 or 4 place kickers on scholarship or 3 or 4 snappers, and so you try to make a surgical strike. We're excited about that. I think we made progress last year with our place kicking. That'll be important that we move, but Ethan Wood and Brendan Torelli had been guys who had really operated at a high level, and that ball moves and those plays are important. So to refortify our football team with these 2 young men is really important.
I did see Tre Woods, who committed here in the last couple of weeks out of Oregon. Is that going to be just a decision that kind of comes along once he gets here in terms of what side of the football he plays on?
Well, it certainly will be, and that's going to be some discussions that we have within the coaching staff, and I always just, many times my activity in practice is certainly I'll be abreast of our schemes and how our preparation is going to our next opponent, but a lot of times you're looking at different guys fitting in different places, and so he's got a lot of ability to do a lot of different things. I mean, everything from playing running back to corner to linebacker and wide receiver. And so that guy is going to be contingent upon how big he gets, what needs that we have. He's open to playing all kinds of different positions. So we're real excited about him.
Absolutely. Again, we're talking with Coach Craig Bohl. And just a couple of other questions before I let you go, Coach. I know a lot of this work is put in not just by you but by your staff. And I know in the release you kind of talked about the spearheaded efforts of your Director of Recruiting, Gordy Haug. But what has been the perception of Wyoming out there when visiting not only with Gordy, but the rest of your staff that goes out and recruits across the country? What is the perception of these young men about the University of Wyoming football program right now?
Well, it's certainly heightened. Our brand has become much more broad-based. I was receiving some texts from our conference commissioner about the response that he's gotten from hosting the Mountain West Conference Championship here, and how it put the University of Wyoming on a much larger stage. And those are things a lot of people, we really believe we're an asset to the university. We're part of the university, and so much more interest. And I think that's going to transcend to, you're going to find more students across the country are looking at the University of Wyoming, period. And that's a win-win. And so that's why college athletics are so important. I know a lot of times people will debate, what's the value of it? And, there was talk before about, well, maybe the University of Wyoming should drop down and go into FCS football. Well, look at where we're at now, and look at the spinoff of what the positive impacts. And you walk into the Los Angeles and you walk into a high school, you see some kids wearing Wyoming sweatshirts that have nothing to do with Cowboy football. Mm-hmm. And so that's part of the success, and we just need to build on that.
A couple things with your staff. Obviously, you've brought in a new defensive coordinator, and obviously you lost Coach Mallory, who we wish him best of luck as the new head man at Indiana State. What are your thoughts on your new defensive coordinator and then trying to look for a replacement and kind of your timeline in replacing Kurt Mallory on the staff?
Well, first of all, we're really pleased with Scotty. Scotty's brings a great body of work. Scotty and I had been together many years ago and really was the architect to still what's an excellent NDSU defense. And along with that, had experience at USC, so he's got experience in the Pac-12. He was a defensive coordinator at Nevada when they had success, and then he spent a couple of years coaching in the NFL. And so he's a Longmont young man, and not young. He's from Longmont, and he really enjoys the Rockies area, and he's going to bring a great deal of experience with our defense. We're going to interview a couple different candidates for our secondary position, specifically working with the safeties. We've gotten a great response. We've kind of whittled it down to just a couple key guys that we're going to take a hard look at, and they're going to take a hard look at the University of Wyoming. So I think within the next 2 weeks we'll have our guy. And
then off-season wise, where are you guys at right now as you prepare for spring football, which will be here before we know it, Coach? Well, it's a good thing about playing in a bowl game that those windows are a little bit shorter than what they used to. Russell Dennison has done a great job with the strength and conditioning. We have some other assistant coaches, and so the activities that's going on now, we're putting on lean body mass, doing explosive weight room work, and then conditioning and building a great base. We'll get started with spring football here. Like I said before, our guys will go on a short spring week, but they're sore now. I've talked to Josh Allen, and he and I had a great talk. He goes, "Hey, Coach, I'm sore." Well, that's a good kind of sore, and so that's where you build your foundation, hard work ethic, guys coming together, paying that price in the weight room, and then over in the IPF. Well, it sounds like you're excited about this recruiting class, everything that's going on with your football program. Thank you so much for your time. Okay, bye now, guys.